Good afternoon. I'm Professor John Paul J. Pitrola from the University of San Agustin, Iloilo City, and I'm here to present my paper on Ati people in Panay Island for the first Asian Virtual Conference on Multidisciplinary Research hosted by the Emilio Aguinaldo College. So my paper is the product of my research endeavor with the IP community, specifically in the area of Malaya clan, and this is a project was shared by Dr. Rowena Villasidro of the Iloilo Science and Technology University, or the ISATU in Iloilo City. Of course, I'd like to acknowledge the Emilio Aguinaldo College organizers for facilitating this kind of virtual conference. All right, so there you go. So this research is entitled Ati and Panay, Their Experiences of Disrespect and Struggle for Social Justice. As we all know, the Ati people are considered the earliest ancestors in the country. And being the earliest ancestors, they were able to live in their own ancestral domain for quite a long time already. However, because of the intrusion of globalization as well as of urbanization in their cultural communities, they were displaced. They were also intimidated due to oppression of several companies engaged in mining and logging businesses, as well as the rampant discrimination. This happened despite the fact of the IPRA law that was enacted in the country, as well as the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of the Indigenous Peoples. So this research is actually grounded on the idea of Axel Honneth's theory of the struggle for recognition. This will be used in understanding the plight of Ati people for self-determination and social justice. So this lies on the argument that the Ati people, being one of the IPs in the country, have been victims of discrimination, oppression, killings, and land grabbing and other forms of human rights abuses by the elites, especially those, the lowlanders or the Bisaya, the multinational companies engaged in hotel and restaurant businesses. So as part of the natural cycle, psychological response to it, this injustice, they are now motivated to struggle for recognition of their livelihood, human rights, ancestral domain, and of course, their freedom. In conducting this study, I have three methodologies. The one is the ethnography, wherein I went to the community, and for 10 days, I spent time with the communities to conduct interview. I also did observation, noting all the what I have observed in the community. So this ethnography was done in the Attic cultural communities in Malaya clan. Of course, as I take down of the notes of what I have observed in the community, it should be validated through the use of focus group discussion. So here in the focus group discussions, we meet with the ATI leaders, wherein they try to validate our observations, the results of and the findings of our study. And the critical analysis is also done in order to connect and to use the Honneth's theory of recognition vis-a-vis the output that we had during the immersion in the Ati community. As a result of the study, the Ati people lives in an unending quest for social justice. So this is the present social condition of the Ati people now. In fact, I have laid down four themes here. One is the continuing social discrimination, poverty, landlessness, and displacement, and militarization in the Ati community, especially in Aklan, in Malay Aklan, and in Nabas, particularly in Nabas and in Malay. So social discrimination, despite the fact that there is already the enactment, as what I've said, of laws on the IPs, there are still social discriminations because there are people really who do not understand and who do not have this what we call concern and love for the IPs. This social discrimination happened especially in the IP schools, or in the schools when there are IPs or the ATI people, because they are always tagged as what we call dirty people because of their appearance, because of their complexion. Also because of their hairs, the kinky hairs, they're always been bullied by people. But not only the children that's been discriminated in school. Also, some of the workers complained that they are also discriminated at work. Like for example, in one of the fishing company in Malay, wherein the hard labors, usually the hard tasks are given to those ati, while those very light, like for example office work, like for example a very light task, were given to those who are considered Bisaya. So because of this, the discrimination is still rampant even in school and in work. Also, one of the members of their tribe said that when they went to Boracay Island, no, to visit their folks there, they were also bullied in the boat. That it seems like it's not acceptable for them because they would say about bad words against the Ati people. So in this time of globalization, or this time of economic advancement in Boracay Island in particular, there are still the Ati people are still being ostracized and discriminated because uh, of their colors, or perhaps of their hair or their appearances. So social discrimination is still prevalent. Poverty is also very evident in the Ati community. In fact, during typhoon last December 2019, they could hardly recover with the typhoon because the loss of their farms, the loss of their livelihood. So poverty is still very strong in the community. Also, there was a record of environmental and health risks, like for example this COVID-19 pandemic. The fear of the ati is that what if they will be the one who will acquire the COVID-19 or acquire the virus. In fact, in Iloilo City, the ati community, there are 3 people who died last year because of dengue and tuberculosis. So these are manifestations that they could not afford to go to the hospital because of their conditions, because of their poor. Landlessness, although in some areas in Malayaklan, there are a lot of ancestral domain already granted to these Ati people. However, there are still some communities who doesn't have their own land. Like for example, in Sitio Carla in Malayaklan, they shared to me that their land that they are having right now as their where their houses are located, it's not their property. Rather, it is a property that was lent to them by a philanthropist who happened to be a foreigner. So landlessness and displacement is still ongoing with the Ati community. Also in Boracay, for quite a long years, they struggle on going from one place to the other because they are being pushed by these business companies engaged in hotel and restaurants because they claim the land as theirs. These business companies have interest in the land that was owned by the Ati people. So the Ati has to move from one place to the other just to have their community settle, just to have their community to have their houses. Until such time that the 2.1 hectares were given to them by the government, wherein they now have at the middle of Boracay Island, they settled there as one community. So militarization in there was a case that a certain Ati youth leader was shot dead because he's fighting for the claim, the 2.1 hectare claim in Boracay Island. So as a spokesperson, he was actually shot by allegedly a security guard of a company or a multinational company who has interest in the land. So um, after that it was settled, it was already awarded to the Ati community, and now they have their own ancestral domain. However, despite this ownership now with the land, they still have the fear because the DENR in some guard or private guard still have or trespass in their community. So they could hardly develop their community. They could hardly develop their land. They could not even tell their farms because of the presence of some of the armed groups and even the police who try to guard it as part so-called DNR protocol and securing the forests in the areas. But for the Ati, it creates fear, a culture of fear, because of their helplessness if they fight with these armed groups. So that's why militarization is still prevalent in the community, in the Ati community. So because of the social discrimination, poverty, landlessness and displacement, and militarization, these are the instances of disrespect that push the Ati people to struggle for recognition. So as form of recognition, according to Axel Honneth, it is basically a coming up together wherein people who had this victims of injustice try to come up together in order to make themselves as one group and fight as a community. So the Ati people did that. That's why they were able to establish the Malay Ati Tribe Association in Malaya Clan, wherein they created a cooperative and they created a group registered and as part of the representation in their fight for their ancestral domain. Also in the community in Lanit Haro, they were able to have this what we call help from the NGOs in the US, wherein these NGOs were able to help them and establish 25 houses where now they reside. So it's now the Ati property in Lanit Haro. So these are some forms of their struggle. These are some forms of their struggle in order to be recognized as free individuals. So the Axel Honneth's theory of struggle for recognition is basically an idea that the denial of recognition does not just affect on the economic side of the person, but it affects basically it's a losing one's own identity and the feeling of being social shame, humiliation, and exploitation. So if you're being exploited, for example, outside, you feel that social shame. You feel that it's not just losing it's not just losing your psyche, but also losing your identity as a person. It's really very very bad. So because of this treatment that Ati felt, they, like for example, they have experienced land grabbing, militarization, the destruction of customary tradition, and even the non-implementation of IPRA and UN Declaration on the Rights of the IPs. They feel that they lost their identity. They feel like being humiliated, and therefore they struggle for recognition. They create groups in order for them to have one voice and stage their plight for self-determination. So Ati people need to struggle for recognition of the rights of their deeply seated claims and expectations by engaging in the political resistance in order to articulate their feelings of being disrespected. That's why the the leader of the Ati in Malaya clan really asked help from some media, from some government organizations and NGOs in order for them to be granted with a claim of their ancestral domain, which was granted by President Duterte. And also, as a part of a recommendation, it is now the society's duties to give the Ati peoples what is due respect to them, respecting their rights accordance to IPRA. And we have laws. We have basically the UN Declaration. The only thing that the Philippines has to do is you were able to implement them, is you were able to give what the Ati people deserve. And in that sense, we were able to recognize them as full-fledged member of the Philippine society. So I would like to thank the Office of Research and Global Relations of the University of San Agustin. This is a product of my short stint in the professorial chair as part of my professorial grant in 2018. So once again, thank you so much, Emilio Aguinaldo Collins, for this time and for giving this opportunity to share this through this online platform. Thank you.